everybody. Welcome to a new episode of On the Table. Gosh, I'm so excited about this episode because we're talking about the bag, which I know my guest here, they want all the bags. Look at them. They just want to get into this topic. But for folks who are new, On the Table is the podcast where we bring Christians who have different beliefs together every week to discuss matters that are on the table. And the aim of the podcast is to help Christians not only think Christian things, but actually to kind of turn all the stuff they believe into action. So we're considering how we take all the theological truths and all those kind of high stuff we believe, how we turn them into normal day-to-day action. As I said, we're talking about the bag. So we've bought, for folks who are like, what is the bag? Bag is money and materialism, right? All that kind of stuff. So we've bought 4 Christians who are making lots of money to come together and to tell us about all the money they're making.
Lying already.
So before we carry on, my name is Omoniyi, the director here at our God-given mission, and on my right is.
On his right is Caleb. More about me is, I graduated university, electrical engineer. My interests and passions are in solar. I think there's so much that we can do with solar, and I feel like I just want to change Africa and push that way. So that's
and
me.
Make a lot of money, I imagine.
Yeah, the money's a what? It's positive, I guess. So
Wow.
I said, wow, you know.
Next we have me. My name is George. I'm a second year medic at the University of Manchester. I'm also part of the OGGM team. I'm the community lead. Anything else I do, part of different organizations. I just love a lot of different things, and wealth is something I'm interested in.
Hey.
I mean, you're for those who don't know, you're wearing what's it called?
What's it called? That's a
Guys,
D
don't
squared.
don't worry about what I'm wearing.
Stressed. Is it called a stressed? You know when rich people wear ripped clothing just to show that they can afford what poor people wear, but also pay more for it. You're one of those guys, aren't you?
Nah. That's not me.
Okay.
And then
Didn't think I would do it, did you?
lastly, we have.
I'm Deborah. I'm a Christian. Love Jesus. Grew up in the church in a Christian household. I graduated from university last year as well. Studied engineering business management, and now I work as a technology consultant.
Wow.
Ooh. Wow. There's so much more. I feel like I know a lot more about you now than I did.
Now that I've told you.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into this topic, I can see people twitching already. They can't wait to get into it. We're gonna play a game that's called, I think, Forbidden Words or Taboo. And essentially, whoever's gonna volunteer has to describe some words, but can't use the words below it. Essentially. So they give you a list of words you can't use, and we just need to get as many as possible. I think the top score is still 3, which is just kind of ridiculous if you ask me. I think we can do higher.
Of course.
So I'm gonna pass. Who's volunteering?
Me.
George.
Yeah, I've got this sorted.
There you go. So you're gonna do it, and we're all gonna guess the words. Shoot, George. Well, sorry, can't say that with black.
So the first word is when you're kind of unsure. You don't know if you truly
Believe.
So the opposite of that
Doubt.
is
Doubt.
Yes,
Ooh.
done. The next thing is when you wanna when there's something in front of you and you're just trying to hit at it and break it down. What is that?
Barriers.
Barrier.
No, yes. But
A
we
wall.
see it. Yes, a wall. Next one. When I've got to skip that one. Leadership Old Testament. Leadership Old Testament female. Leadership
Deborah.
Yes. Next one. Sinful, so sinful. Judgment will come upon you.
Hell.
Old Testament, minor prophets at the end of the Old Testament.
Malachi.
Fish. Big fish.
Jonah.
Name of the place.
Nineveh.
Yes. Next one. It flaps. It's an
A bird.
bird.
An albatross.
yes, but
Eagle.
a type. The
Sparrow.
Holy
Eagle.
Spirit.
Oh.
Dove.
Yes. How many did you get?
That was 5 if you ask me.
That's
Come on,
good.
guys. We've won
Hey.
this.
Was it
We won this.
Top score now, yeah?
Was it 5? It was 4. 5. Okay.
Yeah, we've won this.
Top
was good.
score.
Thank you, guys.
I don't know. Well, I hope that was quite fun.
Yeah, that's good to be fair.
Right. Well done. This is the best team so far, probably because you guys make so much money. So
my God.
you probably hired people to train, and everyone's been
Oh God.
There's a lot of money in this room. Anyways, right. So we want to tackle the topic of wealth and materialism. If we're going to be honest and serious for a minute, it is a topic that I think a lot of young Christians struggle to navigate. You know, you read in the Bible portions of scripture about contentment, you know, and, you know, about Jesus suffering, and you kind of intellectually go, yes. But then as you start making money and you actually have money in your hand, what actually starts to transpire is money is actually very sticky. It's very hard to let go of. So let's talk about some of these things. Let's just start with one of the big ones, which is, does God desire for all Christians to be prosperous and wealthy? Floor's open, folks.
I think for me that's a big one, because personally I believe that that shouldn't be the aim, because I feel like the gospel that we get pushed so much now is that you're gonna be rich, you're gonna get a Lambo, you're gonna get a jet. But personally, I don't think I think prosperity has kind of been like changed or morphed into a different version, because what I believe prosperity is that you can just have joy, you can be at peace. But yeah, that's kind of my perspective on that. I don't think everyone is going to be rich.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think I was reading a book and I was exploring the same kind of thing, and it was talking about, like Mike said, MT said, is that I think is a topic we avoid because when we're in it, we kind of want to navigate how we deal with our money, and it's it's like no one else's business. But when you look at Jesus's teachings, it's not something he avoids. I think they said something like 15% of the time he's talking about money and lifestyle.
Yeah, that's true.
You see it in Luke 16, Luke 14. But to answer the question, I think God wants us to have our joy in him rather than in money. So like you said, I don't think it matters. I don't think God desires for everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a bit out there. I don't think God desires everybody to be wealthy in terms of money.
Got you. Okay. And I guess we'll call this like introductory remarks, if you know what I mean. So Deborah, what do you think?
I think like prosperity and like financial being wealthy, that isn't in the gospel message. Like when we draw people to Christ, when we introduce Jesus to someone, prosperity and money isn't in the message that we're told to like preach. So it's dangerous when we kind of use that as an angle to draw people to Christ, I think, because then it can lead to them being disappointed when they then discover Jesus and, you know, they're still poor. Do you know what I mean? So we need to be careful about that. And I don't agree that God has the intention for every single one of us to be wealthy. I think his plans for us...
But do you think he has an intention for some to be like wealthy?
Yeah, maybe some of us. I think like his plan for each one of us is different. He loves us all uniquely. We're all different. So I think, no, I don't think it's the same for every single one of us, no.
Everyone's doing a lot of Is that because you agree or you're kind of like, hold on a minute.
I think for me, what it is that wealth is a sticky one, because going back to what's called the question that
by sticky,
MT,
what does that mean? As in
it's a grey area. I think so. Going back to what MT was saying about should everyone be wealthy, but then we need to go into the definition of what we think wealth is, and then if it's in terms of possessions and the things that you can like physically have, then I think everyone will have different versions of that. But then I think then it goes down to what's your description of wealth? Is that you? Yeah.
Go on, George.
I do. I hear what you're saying. I just think that when you look at the Bible, especially I see it vividly in the New Testament, definitely in the Old too, is we're encouraged to not really care about our earthly possessions at all.
Exactly.
Like not one bit. I think the moment that you hold on to something so much that you can't let it go, just something I actually heard at Heads Up, you guys should come every Saturday 11 to 1. Sorry, just had to throw that out there. Is that the moment that you have a clenched fist and there's any possession in your life that you can't let go, if God said, nope, I need you to go to the jungle and evangelize to the jungle men and women, I don't know that. Like, I hope there's probably a
The
track.
jungle men and women.
The jungle. You heard it here first. No,
sorry.
jungle men.
Sorry.
The jungle
Hashtag the jungle men.
hashtag jungle ministry.
Then you should be able to let everything go. There should be
But you
no
know,
excuse.
you know what someone will say to you? Like, sorry to interrupt you. It's just
Yeah.
they would say, "Here we go again."
Here
It's
we
another
go.
Christian podcast talking about we need to not care about our possessions. But in reality, you're sat there with a stressed,
Oh my
a stressed hat.
Distress.
D squared.
You're sat here with a jumper that looks expensive.
That is-
To someone who doesn't have much, maybe someone in like sixth form, whatever it is, who still gets £20 from mum. You know, well, that's a lot actually. I used to get £20. I used to get £20 a week for food.
That's really generous.
That's good enough.
That's
That's
really
good
good.
enough.
What else are you
I used to get 10.
Literally,
Yeah.
you used to get 10. Someone said
Yeah.
they got 5 once. I said, "Wow,
Huh?
need to start."
You make that 5
I thought
stretch.
we should
You
do
make
a
that
GoFundMe for it.
stretch.
But that's what's crazy about it, though. So, like, someone like that would look at you and be like, "Yo, you're rich, bro." So, like, how do you actually do that? Not care about possessions? How do you practically, realistically live a life where you abandon possessions? Because you always hear people saying that.
That's such a good question.
George, I'm asking you because you said it.
I think the way I personally do it is I understand how, or through retrospect, I understand that the happiness these possessions give me, they're quite fleeting. They often mean nothing. They come and they go. When someone gives me a gift, I'm happy. But the next thing, I'll see the news and I'll be like sad. So it doesn't really give me much. So once again, it sounds like it's up there because it's a theological truth. But I try to find joy in the gospel, joy in God. And then when you find joy in that, you kind of see these things as add-ons. You don't see them as necessities anymore. You see them through a different lens. Even when you do get them, you see them through the lens that God has given me this through someone. So it all becomes God's possessions all of a sudden. All of a sudden, nothing is actually yours. Everything is God's.
Okay, well, again, what does that mean, bro? So when you're in the shop and you're deciding what hat to buy, like, how does
for
you
the
being like,
cheapest.
it's God's possession? How does that actually
Deep,
affect your
that's deep.
behavior? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, the way I've kind of the lens I kind of use through that is that first I agree with the point that we kind of have to look at money as everything that we actually own is not actually ours. As Christians, I believe that everything is just a blessing that God has given us. So I think when we look at through that lens, first of all, we negate the fact that that's mine. You can't take it away from me. Because now when I've put myself in that position and that perspective that, okay, I don't see it no longer as mine. I'm kind of borrowing it from God. And then in terms of like what you're saying about buying like what's in a shop, the way I look at it is that we know what brands are gonna give that energy. We know what brands are gonna be like, yeah, you're stunting. And the thing is, personally, those are the brands that I stay away from. But I guess that's subjective. So
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So you avoid like flashy items.
yeah. So for me personally, you wouldn't catch me in Gucci. You wouldn't catch me in LV.
Wow.
That's just never been me. Because the thing is, the way I look at it is that I feel like as Christians, our main thing is that we wanna what's it called? Get as many fish. So we want our net to be as big as possible. So the way I look at that is, I have to be able to be relatable to as many people as I can be, and I feel like the way what I wear and even my mannerisms to a certain point will affect that. So that's kind of how I look at my life through that lens.
That's really good.
You think that's good?
No, it's as good as it's a different perspective.
Uh-huh.
I think for me, what I've done previously is when I think about if it's on the topic of what brands or whatever, what kind of items we're going to go for me, it's like if I can afford the item that's like better quality, that's a little bit more luxurious, it's going to last me longer. If I can afford that, I don't know if I've ever like considered any other factor.
But would you say luxury and quality are the same things? Because like you can
not the same thing, but I mean, luxury items tend to be better quality.
Like for example, I can give you Zara.
Yeah.
Zara wouldn't necessarily be a luxury item.
No.
But You can get Gucci. You get Gucci.
Yeah, but if I
Zara
can't
quality
afford
might be better than
Gucci,
Gucci.
if I can afford both Gucci and Zara, and they're
Yeah.
selling me the same item, but one is exponentially more expensive,
Uh-huh.
I'll probably go for the Zara one because I don't
Okay,
need
yeah.
the Gucci one. Do you know what I mean?
But you know, this topic you said about being able to relate to people, I'm actually quite interested in. So are you,
Yeah.
'cause I don't want to put words in your mouth. Are you
Yeah.
basically saying that wearing certain clothes
Mm-hmm.
makes you more relatable to people? So for instance, let's say you're going to, because I've heard something like this said
Yeah.
before, like you're going to evangelize to rich people.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to evangelize to rich people, you can't just wear a jumper. You need to wear LV, or you need to wear, I actually don't know any luxury fashion brands. I was about to do a list, but it stops at LV.
It stops at LV.
LV and Gucci, literally. But yeah, what would you say to that? Is that what you're saying? Or?
So my stance is not that I would change my stance is not what I would change when I'm evangelizing to different people. What I'm saying, my stance is more on the point of there is people who may not necessarily have much in life, and the thing is that the way you show yourself is an indication, because for me personally, like, say for example, I'm fresh in Christianity, and someone's trying to talk to me, and if he's in LV, if he's in drip, yeah, my first mind is gonna be like, okay, how's he making that money? I'm not even on God, to be honest. That's me. And the thing is, I feel like going back to conversations that we've had before, we want it to be God-centered. So if we want it to be God-centered, they've got to see God in you first before they put the LV and everything. And that's
Right.
my position and my stance on that.
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. My kind of perspective is I think it would definitely look different for everyone. I think first of all, what is expensive to someone will look different to everyone. So to draw at certain brands, it's like, for someone that's dirt cheap. Not me. I repeat, not me. Feel free to buy me gifts. But because it looks different.
How much was that hat? Because it looks expensive.
It was a gift.
It was a gift. All right.
But because of that, I think it's more important on the distribution of our money rather than like the actual items. Like, how do we distribute our money? Like, how much is going to our clothing? How much is going to how much is going to charities such as OGGM? How much is going to all of these things? I think it's more important in that way.
Quick question, everybody. Does God want his children to have nice things? Because one of the big kind of debate points about this topic of money is that oftentimes you get two different camps forming, don't you? You get folks who, I think, distort the gospel by erring on this idea of prosperity, and
Exactly.
the worst part of that is actually having a totally different gospel altogether, where, you know, folks may have heard of the term the prosperity gospel, people who preach this idea that God wants you to be rich, he wants you to have no sickness, to have nothing bad happen to you, material possessions are a sign of God's blessing over your life. That's wrong, right? But even though that's wrong, not too far away from that is this idea that, you know, you could do anything you want with your money, your money's all yours, whatever. Cool. But then equally, there's another kind of side, which we may call kind of poverty theology, almost, or the poverty gospel. This idea that God wants you to suffer. Suffering is a sign that you love him. Carry your cross, bleed, and then you die. Then you die, right? There is that kind of whatever. But on the other side of that is that, well, you shouldn't have nice things at all. You know, First Timothy 6:8 gives us the line of clothing. As long as you have clothing and food, like, you're okay. And some people are like, that's all I need. Now, where do you guys err, if you're going to be transparent? But also, what's wrong with having nice things?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think that's a question that I ask myself, because sometimes, like previously, when I first started working, I was looking for jobs. Like, I was like, oh, I want this kind of salary. I'm not taking a job unless it's this much money. I need to be able to afford this. But now that I'm earning a certain type of salary, I've realized that, like, you're always gonna want more. So you need to find satisfaction in what you have at the moment. And in terms of, like, does God want us to want nice things or whatever? I think it's more that we need to find satisfaction, like George said earlier, in God, and not in the things that we own, not in how much money we have or how much money we make, not in the brands that we're wearing. We need to find satisfaction in Jesus and Jesus alone, and in the gospel message. Like, and like George said earlier, like, acquiring all these things, that doesn't give you true satisfaction. Like, you have one thing and then 2 minutes later you want another thing. You get a job pay rise, 2 months later you want another pay rise. So you're not going to find satisfaction in those things. And I think for God, it's more about like us placing him in our hearts and only like kind of chasing after him and not material things.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think to answer directly to the question, does God want us to have nice things? Does God want us to have nice things? The thing is that there's so many factors in this, and once again, it looks very different for every single person. But generally, I would say that the way everyone's looking at me is making me. I think when you look at scripture, that's what saves one. When you look at scripture, which is, well, you see that you see. I want to phrase this correctly because it's a very touchy subject, and I don't want people to get confused. I think you will find happiness because I think when you look at what is it Colossians 3 verse 2ish, it was like you worship those things that might be wrong, guys, please check. You worship those things God created rather than the creator. So I think like he will give you nice things, but also you will suffer with him. And is like balance. It's not he would just give you nice things. You will also suffer with him too, like Jesus suffered. So I think they kind of work together.
Okay. So what someone would say is, okay, then in that case, what someone might say is, all right, well, it's okay for me to get really nice things, because in my personal life, I'm also gonna like suffer. So we all know the story of like people who are like super rich, but then they like there's family issues, and maybe someone close to them has cancer, and they're dealing with sickness, and so what you start to get is someone who absolutely, looks for the most expensive things, the really nice things, and then justifies it by saying, yeah, but my life is also quite hard. So I've got a good balance, right, of these things. Do you think that's like... No.
That's not what I'm doing.
So what does balance look like then? And again, it would be nice for us to also consider like the ordinary person's life. So like we're all pretty ordinary in this room. Yes, we're extraordinary in Christ, right? But the truth of the matter is we all live pretty like normal lives. So what does balance in terms of this topic look like for us?
Yeah, that's a hard question. I think for me personally, what balance looks like is I think a lot of people make purchases without maybe not understanding the knock-on effect, because I believe that we can't just go do things like unconsciously.
Yeah.
I feel like being a Christian, you have to live a conscious life, conscious decisions, and I feel like it's not just the role of pastors to be role models for Christ. And I feel like if we're truly going to pick up our cross, I'm not saying that we be poor. Like, I'm not on that spectrum. Where I'm at the spectrum is understanding that we can have nice things, but you got to look at your circle. You got to look at what the connotations of the product that you're going to get gives. So that's kind of where I'm on it.
Exactly, I agree with you. And I think talking about what should we get nice things is talking more so of a secondary issue, because I think the primary issue is where's your value placed, like we've mentioned before. Deep. I think if your values are placed in the right place, then you will automatically spend your money correctly. So yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I agree.
Yeah, I heard pastor, I forgot his name now. It's awkward. No, it was not African pastor. Okay. It's I forgot his name, but he spoke about it's okay to have things, but things shouldn't have you. And so he was speaking there to this notion of, do you have things? Are you? Because there's a much bigger debate about how do Christians delight in the stuff God has given us as much as God himself, because people be like, only God, you only delight in God, and so we don't really have a good theology of how to enjoy things. So it's always like, don't enjoy things, it's all about God, which is true, but God's created some things for our enjoyment, right? He speaks about how the Psalms is full of expressions of people delighting in God's creation as well as God the creator. Here's the second question, which is hard. I feel like you guys are like therapy, just asking everyone really hard questions. This question is like, so how then has the way you spend money changed since you become a Christian? And has there really been a change?
Massively. I think for me, massively. Before I say I truly came to the Lord, my kind of idea of spending money is that it was very fueled by the image that I wanted to portray to people. I feel like a lot of people do suffer with that, because if I had to ask myself, I wanted the Lambo, I wanted the nice cars, but I had to go deep and ask myself, okay, why do I want that? A lot of the time, I wanted to let people know that I was living that life. I wanted to let people know that. But then going to now, I started to realize that those things are not really what I want. And what's it called? The desire in it was kind of like a selfish desire. And the thing is, going back to what the things is that when you were talking about things not controlling you, and understanding that you can take pleasure in things that don't have to cost £2 million or stuff like that. But that's just kind of how I've shifted on what's it called, taking money now.
For me, I can relate to that. For me, before I kind of decided to like actually give my life to Christ and take my faith seriously, when I was in uni, I would kind of see people earning really high salaries after uni and be like, that's my goal. So I would think like, they don't have two heads, I'm gonna get that type of salary. I want
typical
I'm gonna get that.
Honestly, I was like, why can't I earn a high living? Like, if these people can do it, why can't I do it? Because I want nice things. You see people on Instagram, you know, nice cars, nice clothes, all those things. Yeah, exactly. So I'd be like, why can't I have those things? But now in Christ, the scripture that tells us to love our neighbor as much as we love ourselves, really affects like my decisions and how I spend my money. So I see it now more as like, this is a gift from God. My salary is a gift from God, and I need to steward that wisely. I need to be intentional about what I spend it on. I can't be selfish with it and just only think about myself. I have family members, I have friends, people in need, like there's charities I can give to. So if I'm going to work and earning a living, that living isn't just for me to spend on myself. There's so many other things I can spend that on. So yeah, that's the main change for me now. That's
strong. I don't think I recall like my spending changing so much so, but my the process by which I make a decision definitely changed. I remember one of these, like, I'm scarred from growing up because I just remember uncles just saying these one-liners that have stuck with me for years. One of which was like, you'll have to give an account to God for every penny in your. So I was like, suddenly you're like, and until now I'm still recovering. Sometimes I'm just walking, I just hear it in my head, and I zone out for a bit. But that is the truth as Christians, isn't it? That God doesn't own a bit of our money. He actually owns all our money. In fact, the power to make wealth, the Bible says, comes from God. So seeing our money as a way to change the world, because this is the thing, isn't it? We can either see money as barter, a means of exchange, which is what it is economically, or we can see it as a conduit or a thing through which we can actually change the world. Like, you can morph the world through your money. You can either give money to a company and have one guy at the top happier because of that, or you can, as you said, kind of Debs, you can give money to charities, or you can invest your money, or you can bless people, thereby helping people change their views on gratitude, helping people, helping alleviate suffering. Like, it's such a powerful thing to have £10 once you see it as a means through which I can change the world, but 2, something I have to give an account for, and 3, something that's on loan. It's not mine. Like, it's actually not mine. And that's one of the reasons why the whole tithing questions often get me, when people are like, oh, God owns 10%. Well, no, God owns 100%, and so, like, suddenly it's not just about even material things. It's now about leisure. Because let's talk about that. Because people are like, oh yeah, I don't really like expensive things. What about the tour of the world you did in 2019? How about that? where trigger warning. Where people maybe it's not the money, but it's the £300 you spend for spa treatment, followed by another 300 for manicure, for pedicure. Sorry, you can tell I have no clue how this works, but you get the gist. What about that as well? Because I get it. Maybe you're not ostentatious. What about the £200 membership fee you spend to go and lie down? Some people pay ridiculous money for gym, and they don't even go. So, like, what about all that stuff?
For me, I think it goes back to what we're talking about, stewardship. And I think as Christians, we've got to be responsible for what's it called? What we're using our money on. It goes back to the thought process now of actively, consciously thinking, okay, is this going to be beneficial? Like going back to the gym analogy, I know loads of people that are paying like £100 for some gyms, and I was like, bro, you ain't been in months, man. And the thing is, that's just poor stewardship. Like,
is there punishment for not going?
Like, for me, I'm just like, that's poor stewardship. Just give it to someone else or something. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think, because the thing is, there's people who are like, who justify it, but it's an experience. And then the thing is, when does it get too much? That's what I'm like. It's a tough one.
George, have you got a gym membership?
That's a personal question. I won't provide information on the podcast.
I'll take it as a no.
I don't need you.
GDPR.
I essentially I agree with you. I think it's all about stewardship. Like, how is your money divided? Is it actually leading to any results? As well, not talking about your gym if you're still the same. It's all about being healthy, right?
Where are the gains, bro?
But just in the way you distribute your money, are you actually seeing an effect? More generally, like, you just want to use your possessions and you want to use these experiences to lead people to the light in God. I think when I say that, though, people go and they will tweet their new car and they will say Jehovah Jireh, and I'll say, that's alluding to something else. Like, I'm not really for that. I think Jehovah Jireh is talking more so about how the Lord has already provided. But I think it's more so about how do I make others delight in God, for me.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna speak. I was looking at you. You're right. No, I was looking at the scripture that was the theme for the retreat we did. So we do these retreats every year where we get 150 people odd in Wales, and we talk about these issues. We preach and teach on it. And Matthew 6:21, where Jesus begins the Beatitudes, he actually makes it very clear that where your treasure is, your heart will be also. Making a case that our heart often follows our money, right? In that wherever our heart is, that's where we push money towards. So I always tell people, like, if you want to work out what you're genuinely passionate about, and this isn't some triggering thing, just look at your bank statement. Your bank statement will show you, beyond all your podcast appearances or your panels. Sorry, no one on this chat. I'm just like, I have a thing in me. I just have to trigger. I can't help it.
I feel dragged.
Beyond all the Bible studies, what shows, what we're passionate about is money, because as they always say, talk is cheap. And I think as Christians, we can talk for, I'm just so passionate about the plight in my life. Okay, how much money have you sent? 0, right? But let's be quite frank, like Domino's, they know your name. When they see an order come through, they go, oh, there she is.
Sorry, guys.
I'm actually being dragged. Oh my god.
There's a Chinese near my house. When I walked in one day, she said, "Hi, Mike." I said, thank God, something must change. But there's so much suffering and bleeding in the world, and this isn't to trigger people. This is just to say, do we need to have a think about how we better steward our money, not just to satisfy immediate and transient pleasures, but to actually, do eternal things, sponsor children, empower charities, like do things that actually matter. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah, like 100%. We absolutely do need to steward our money better, and it's something that even me, like, it's something that I'm continuously working on, because I can definitely think of things that I spend unnecessarily on. 100%. Food is the main thing. But yeah, like, we do need to think about what actually matters to us as believers, and we can give financially to those causes, like sponsoring those that are less fortunate, whatever it is, like giving to your church, just actually using your money as a way to bless other people. Like, you can obviously give with your time, your skill, whatever, but you also need you need to transfer money. Like, people need money. You need to send a piece, because money makes the world go round. But do you know what I mean? So there's many things you can do. You can give several ways, but you can't then just be like, but I'm not gonna give my money. Like,
did you ever do that when you were younger? Like, be like, I'm giving the church my time and
Yeah,
effort instead.
yeah. I'm in the choir. I volunteer. I'm here all the time anyway. I'm not gonna give my money. Like, so tithing is something that, I mean, that's a tricky one, but just giving money in general was something. That's a whole other episode. I understand. But as a student, like, giving money wasn't something that I did because I felt like I don't have enough for myself. So like, I can't then be giving to someone else. Like, you know, I need to manage the little that I have. How can I give to someone else? But I think, yeah, it's a tricky one, but we definitely do need to actually give our money.
I think two things about this. I think one, people listening to this podcast and even us in the room, immediately you're going to make so many excuses to stop yourself from giving. You're going to think, oh, I don't know how they use my money though. How about you just give? And maybe ask, but like, first of all, you need to give. There's so many other excuses. Like, there will be thousands in your head just as you're about to click donate. But we've got to work against them. We've got to see that as God kind of churning our hearts and turning it towards focusing on Him and delighting in Him. What was the second thing I was going to say? Only God knows. That's between me and God now. Sorry, guys, I forgot.
I'm taking you to my grave. You're right, though. I love what you said there about the excuses thing. Like, it's such a... And it's funny because you never make excuses when you're about to buy like a new phone or like it happens so seamlessly. You know, I think that I even had a God moment with a PS5 recently where there was a guy who said he could get me a PS5, so I was like, result. So we jumped on the phone and on FaceTime, and he was like entering my details and everything because he had it in the shopping cart. And when he then clicked buy, it was like, yeah, it's gone. And I was so angry. I was thinking, But the other thing in my head, I was like, it's fine, doesn't matter. You know, kind of like, thanks, bro. Anyways, right? But inside, I was just thinking, because I really wanted it because I was so close. But here's the thing: that thing was I think just shy of 500 and something pounds. That's what. But you know, there was nothing in my head telling me, but Mike, what about? I was just like, I'm getting it. But when it comes to giving, offering, you know, the amount of gymnastics the pastor has to do at the front. He's doing the worm. He's doing he's sweating. That man's working. Give that man a handkerchief. That's what I'm thinking, right?
Give him his accolades.
Before I can give £500, as in just to give one, it has to be a guest pastor, right? Two, do you know what I mean? A song has to have gone forth that's really triggered. So it just makes me think. It's when it comes to doing things of God, as George is saying, there's so many barriers and so many reasons we shouldn't do it. But when it comes to satisfying our fleshly urges, we can do that in a heartbeat. Anyways, who knows? What I want to ask you, George, just before you jump back in, so say what you're going to say, but also answer the question, like, so what would you tell your younger self then, when you think about money and materialism and stuff like that? What would you tell listeners who maybe are a bit younger and are going, I don't really have much money, so what do I give and stuff like that? And just so we understand that this isn't an advert for giving, like that we're not just saying give, because I know we've kind of talked about giving for a while, but how do you, in your personal life, how do you combat this materialism thing, which seems to kind of stick around sometimes?
The first thing I was going to say, alluding to kind of offering, is I also think there's this temptation to then give, but once again for self. So you give in order to get blessings rather than to give because you're thankful. So I think we also need to avoid that. Make sure you're giving for the right reasons. Make sure it's not for selfish reasons to get back, or even, this is a temptation, it's very easy to slip into it, giving just so you feel better. It's like, okay, they said it on the past podcast, let me just give so I feel better and I feel like a better person. I think that's something we also ought to avoid. But in terms of what I would tell my younger self, what would I tell my younger self? I am my younger self.
Drip. That's what you would say. Drip
forever, man.
Drip is forever. Lord, forgive us, Jesus.
I would say, like your value set, like focusing on value, like don't try not to value money too much. Even if you don't have enough money, it's important to tackle this kind of mindset, because you're going to get to the stage where you do have a bit more money and a bit more, and it never gets easier. By the way, it never gets, I have more money now so I can deal with money better and I can give more. No, it doesn't get easier. So tackling that mindset is what I want to do.
Cool. I think for me, answering that question, I think I'll look at practical ways. Like for example, my little brother, he's 15 now, and he's kind of in that age of social media. Like that's what they want. You know what I mean? They want the lubes. They want the lubes, Louboutins.
Oh right.
Yeah. They want
Isn't that in France?
they want the Gucci. But like I've kind of been on a journey of kind of like minimalism and actually taking stock of what I actually use. So for example, me, one trick that I saw is that I'll give myself like a wish list, and then every month I'll look back at that wish list and see if I have the same desire for the thing. Because sometimes I feel like a lot of our desires are impulses. So we want that because we've seen it.
Hey,
but then when we look at it again, we're like, yeah, I don't like that anymore. Do you know what I mean? So that's helped me a lot, taking stock of what I actually have and actually throwing away some stuff. It's hard, but I don't need it.
That's so strong. That's actually one of these personal finance people often talk about that. Like if you want to buy something that's over £200 or something, put it on the list, give it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, see if you still want it. And if you don't, then it was an impulse buy. It wasn't something you genuinely need. So that's strong, and I think people should definitely listen to that.
Yeah.
I think, what would I tell my younger self? Growing up, like I didn't have much money, and my mum would always say, "Be content with what you have." And I would be really upset. I remember if I like wanted something and I asked my parents for money and they just couldn't give it. Because for me, I thought like they were just being mean, whatever. They didn't want to see me. They didn't want to see me shine. but it's because they just couldn't afford it. And like I remember when I was growing up, like I placed a lot of like my identity was in the things that I have, and I would compare myself to people around me. Like a lot of girls in school, they had this, they looked like this. I wasn't able to do that. I had no money. So things like that would really upset me, and it affected my confidence. So I think what I would tell my younger self is that none of that stuff actually matters. Like it doesn't. Material things, all those things there, that's not the purpose of life. That they don't give you true satisfaction. You can only find that in Jesus. So just try your best to meet Jesus as soon as possible, because that's when you will find true satisfaction. So like as a young person, and I feel bad for people that are growing up in this generation and like social media, because it's even worse, and like comparison is just so easy to do. So yeah, I think it's really difficult, but just try and remember that these things actually don't matter.
So strong. That is yeah, you'd preach the gospel to yourself, isn't it? I think that's what we'd all do if we could speak to our younger self. Find Jesus, quicker. Find him. Find him quicker.
Everything else.
You know, I think one thing that's so important, I would say, to remember is just the debate online when it comes to money is often between those two binaries of excess wealth or excess poverty, and people just run in between both. And you just think, well, Paul had both, and he said he'd learned to be content. And this is what we often we miss out. 1 Timothy 6:6 lets us know that godliness plus contentment is a great gain. So there's this place you can get to where you're happy with what you've got. And if money increases, your standard of living doesn't increase, your standard of giving increases. There's a place you can get to where, you know, if God never blessed you again, you would say you've done enough, God. And I think that's the place we want to arrive at, where we get to a place where we go, the house I have, the clothes I have, if I didn't get anything else, I'm okay. And for me, that's the gold standard. And that's what I would tell my young self is get there, because I often went through the excesses. I was a poverty theologian, for want of a better term. Believing in suffering. And I've also had, you know, because I'm interested in business and scale, I've also been super fascinated by money and making lots of it. And now I think I'm trying to learn through the Holy Spirit how to go out and work and to make more money and stuff like that. Like, you know, be a business, but to be content and to realize that as I get more money, it means I can do more things. Not that my standard of living grows and stuff like that. Listen, it's quite clear today that it's a touchy topic and we all have to work hard at it. But, you know, thanks to everyone who was sat around this table, because you've helped us with this topic. It is tough, and you've done it honestly, and you've been so transparent. So I hope, folks listening, this would serve as a source of encouragement to you. I want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't done so. You know, just like, follow. If it's on Spotify, if it's on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Join the family, because we've got so many more exciting episodes coming. Maybe I'll have drip like George one day.
George.
You know, maybe.
One day.
But we'll see. But yeah, thank you for listening, folks. Take care. Remember, drip is forever. That's what she said.
That's the one word you want to leave them.
We're done, I think.